You're welcome to another edition of Graphic Showbase Dialogue Series. We are happy to have you join us for today's session. Today we're going to have an important conversation on cinemas, on cinema culture. In a bygone time, before Ghana became synonymous with independence, cinemas were central to entertainment in the country. We can mention names of Opera and Palladium in Accra Central. There were Orion at Kwame Nkrumah Circle, Roxy, Royal and Globe Cinemas at Adabraka, Regal on the Osu Road, and then Rex Cinema opposite the Accra hockey pitch. Whilst growing up, all these cinemas were there. I remember when I was growing up in Bubiashi, we had the JVCs and the Shepherd, cinemas, and then we went there. But in recent times, we've noticed that the cinema culture is going down, and as a brand, we thought of ways that we could revive conversations that would help the growth of our industry, as a relevant player in the creative space. So today, Graphic Showbase on our Twitter dialogue series, X dialogue series, we're going to tackle the topic, the Ghana cinema agenda, the need for community cinemas. And I'm excited to have a rich panelist who are going to join us. And then I'm going to have Kali J, Twitter influencer, as my co-host. So for my panelists who are going to join me, we have Juliet Asante, who is the National Film Authority, CEO of National Film Authority. She will join us. We have Yao Sompa, who will be stepping in for her now because she had an emergency. So she will step in and then she will join us later. Yao Sompa is he's part of the legal team at National Film Authority. And then we have Alayo Mochado. I hope I had the name right. He is the accounts manager for West Africa Form 1 Entertainment. Form 1 Entertainment is an independent company that is focused on distribution and production of film content within Nigeria, West Africa, and the world. And they have licenses to some of the big names, in film production like Walt Sydney and Sony Pictures. We also have Nana Yao Chumberima, who is the Chumberima Yeboah. Nana Yao Chumberima Yeboah, who is the business manager for Silverbird Cinemas Ghana. And then we have Ivan Kwashiga, who is a renowned Ghanaian film producer and director. He is also the CEO of Farmhouse Productions. If you are my age, I'm sure you know Things We Do for Love, where we had the popular Pusha, and then currently we have, YOLO, You Only Live Once series. He's the creative brain behind this series that was quite huge in the 90s, and YOLO too is quite huge, in these times. So these are my panelists who are going to join me as we talk about the topic. And then I want you to join me with the topic, Ghana cinema agenda, the need for community cinemas. So I want to give a chance to my panelists. Good evening and welcome. And then to my listeners, to good evening and welcome to today's session. Good evening. Hello.
Hello, hi.
Hi, good evening. Good evening. It's
Good
really an honor to
evening.
be on this space.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening. Okay, so confirmed our panelists are settled, so we can kick off the conversation. And then I have Kali J. I have Kali J as co-host. Kali J, are you around? Are you there? Hello, Kali J. Okay, Kali J will join us soon. We are making him co-host. He will join. He's online. He will join us. He will join me as co-host as we progress. So, as in my introduction, I mentioned that I mentioned a number of cinemas that back in the days they were quite vibrant. I want to ask Uncle, I want to ask Mr. Ivan. You know, he has been in the film industry for long. He's been an instrumental player. I'm sure that, you know, he can be, should I say, between, you know, a bridge between the old and the new. So probably he's experienced the vibrant cinema culture back in the days. So I want to ask Uncle Ivan. Ivan, please, do you think that, you know, Ghana still has a cinema culture? You know, comparing it to the 90s, you know, when I was growing up back in the day, do we still have a cinema culture? Because for me, all the cinemas that I see around, I mean, I work at graphic. So, you know, Roxy Cinema is just a touring building there. I don't know, maybe others, you know, are experiencing it. But do you think we have a cinema culture?
Um, I would say, I would say, eh, the cinema culture now, it's not like before. Um, in the past, as you rightly said your introduction, we had a number of cinema houses spread across the country. A lot of them were owned by the Ghana Films Industry Corporation, and then also we had private individuals like the Captains and the Nankanis and the rest that also had a number of cinema houses. They were also Ghanaians that owned cinema houses that were showing the films that we watched when we were growing up. I remember when I was growing up in Keta, we had a cinema house just next to my house. It was called Croydon Cinema. And then we also had Premier Cinema, which was across the road. And then we also had Paradise, and we had a number of them, even in faraway Kita. So it was something that was all over the place. And can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hear you. Please, I can hear you. Please go on.
So it was something that was there. When I came to Accra, we used to go to watch films at Orion Cinema, and it was always full. Like it was something that a lot of families look forward to going to. I noticed there were cinema houses almost everywhere. When I joined NAFTI, and then we started filming on video, because by then the celluloid culture, you know, when we were watching these films in all these cinema houses, it was mainly films that were brought in from the US or India or Hong Kong, the Chinese films. But then some Ghanaians, I can mention Mr. Kwanzaa, Kinam Pao, and Atuyani, and those, our pioneers who ventured into producing Ghanaian films, and even a film like Genesis Chapter X. The Ghana film industry itself was trying to produce some Ghanaian films, though not as many as we wanted. But when those films were brought out and were in the cinema houses, the places were packed because we wanted to see ourselves. So yeah, we had a culture. I remember even at Orion Cinema, I once went to watch a film, and the first time I went, they played the national anthem, and we all had to stand to observe the national anthem. And then soon after the national anthem ended, there was this comedian, Ajaz Bukana. He sneezed so loud, and he normally does that. It was a part of the culture of the cinema experience at the time, and before the film was shown. And there were all kinds of activities around the cinema. The cinema halls at that time. Well, I would say that at that time, the technology of exhibiting films was through the projectors. So we were watching the films through the celluloid projectors, and so it was not possible to watch films at home. Eventually, a video emerged, and we could then now start shooting films locally and then those that were smart started fixing video projectors in their cinema halls, and that was possible for it became possible for people to continue watching films. But then we could now also have VCRs at home. People started having VCRs at home, DVD players, and all sort of things. So people could then sit at home and watch the films instead of actually going out to watch the films. So somehow the emergence of the video technology, the fact that we had a very long period of curfew where cinema houses and all entertainment places that operated in the night had to close, drove down that industry, and that caused a lot of harm to us. And we are still reeling from the impact of that long period of curfews, and then also the changes in technology and viewing habits has also impacted. So yeah, we have a cinema. We had a more vibrant cinema culture before. It is now that we feel that we need to bring it back and give it some kind of a new lease of life, make it more experiential, so a lot more people can this. And it's very, very important for the film industry, because that is the end point of every effort that we would make as filmmakers, for our audiences to see our work. I think I must have answered the question.
Yeah, I think that um, you have answered the question. But
Mhm,
in your presentation,
mhm,
during submission, you mentioned that the advent and popularity of maybe digital, should I say, digital devices has affected it. You understand? But I was reading and I noticed that there was a UNESCO report in 2021, and it said that even despite this digital revolution that might have affected the cinema culture, of which Ghana is not exempted, Nigeria is still, is not doing badly in that regard. So are we saying that there's something we didn't do right, or we just allowed the system to should I say swallow us without finding alternative solutions, so that even in these times, because the world is revolving, we can still maintain that cinema culture? Like you mentioned, the cinemas are the end product. So if you put so much work in it and you can't get people to watch it, then what's the point?
Well, am I answering that question, or is to another person? If it's me,
I would move to just a brief answer to that, please.
all right. I think that the Nigerian industry has come to accept cinema as a core part of their economy. They value it. The government has put in measures to ensure that cinema thrives, or the film industry thrives. Individuals, business people, all people, there are lots of people that are within that value chain, making sure that the industry works, and even the audiences also have come to accept that film is part of the a Nigerian product that can be put out into the world, and that is something that we have not done. And I'm happy to say that we are seeing a lot of efforts from the National Film Authority now, trying to bring film back on top of minds of policymakers, and also on top of minds of all the players within the industry, so that we can push and make sure that we bring back that love for the cinema experience that we used to have before. It was amazing in the past. If you Even when we had the curfews, we introduced what we call TWE, which was going to watch films during the daytime at 12 o'clock. And people would go on break from work and go and watch a film and get back to work. It was that people actually loved films at that time. And I believe that zeal is still there. And we just need to work a little harder to bring it back.
Okay. Thank you, Ivan. If you just joined us, you are listening to the Graphic Showbiz X Twitter dialogue series, and we are having a conversation on the Ghana cinema agenda, the need for community cinemas. It was Ivan Kwashiga that was making a submission on the cinema culture, and then he was taking us back, to when the cinemas were, that the culture was quite vibrant, and then he was telling us some of the challenges. We would have to go to Alayo. When if you just joined us as well, please, you can share the links for those of us online with us. You can share the link to your friends so that they can join in the conversation. It's quite relevant. You're having a relevant conversation. Most of the time, we say that, the Ghanaian movie industry is still struggling. These are good conversations that can help us, and with the right policies, we'll make a headway. So if you are online, kindly share the link so that you can get others to join this relevant conversation. I think my next question will go to Alayo. During Ivan's, submission, he mentioned that the Nigerians were smart, they understood and they made deliberate efforts to ensure that even with the change of times, especially in this digital era, they will still, their cinema culture will still be relevant. I want to know, Alayo, I hope I had the name right. I don't want to mention the other name. Alayo, what is Nigeria doing right? Or what did Nigeria do right that is working for them now in terms of the cinema culture?
Good evening. Good evening. Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, please, I can hear you. You are online.
Okay. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah. I would agree with Ivan a bit. I guess the name is Alario.
Alayo. Okay.
Yes. Yes. I would agree with Ivan to a certain extent. However, I would also say what has really helped would be the fact that being the third largest producer of film content in the world, which is Nollywood, it was relatively easy to lean on that and lean on the big stars that have come out of that this industry has created, to be able to create cinema going worthy movie, so to speak. If you so it's something that we were able to leverage on, and like you said, government intervention here and there has been helpful to a particular extent. And then cinema going culture. Nigeria has always had a cinema going culture, right from the 60s to the 70s, when we had our parents going to places like Penn Cinema and all those, and theaters. Basically, it's been in the heart of the country. So it's quite easy to leverage on all that and then put that into also put that into marketing into the movies. And then we in Nigeria, we have over 275 cinemas already. So it's quite a big market, and you're servicing quite a large population of people. So it was on those strengths that we leaned on to to push up after the lockdown, like you mentioned, and that's basically that's one of our leverages on that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you like you said, you said you agree with Ivan, you do, to some extent. So you think that would you say that Ghanaians, or should I say the players in the Ghanaian movie industry, didn't really understand how the system was going at the time?
I wouldn't say that. I would say, I'll give you an instance. For instance, Ghana has four cinemas presently, right? And as if you compare that to Nigeria that has over 275 and has over 84 cinemas. So initially I said 275, I meant 275 screens. So to compare that to Nigeria that has over 84 cinemas, right? You can see that there's already a disparity in that. And for Ghana, a lot of the economy drivers are, expatriates, and it's not. I don't think it's a factor of them not understanding it. I mean, I think it's a factor of trying to build that culture all over again from the beginning. I think that's something they need to look. That's something that needs to be looked into, and that's something that maybe we look at it from the spectrum of, okay, now we have three cinemas. The three cinemas service can three cinemas service the entire. Can four cinemas service the entire 16 regions in Ghana? What can we do to reach a populace? What can we do to reach a populace that is basically underserved? And I think that's where community cinemas would come into play. That's where I think that's what we can look at. Because that's what we can look at in bringing up community cinemas in areas or in regions where it's a bit difficult to get to your high-end cinema, so to speak.
Oh, okay. Hello?
Hello, okay.
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I get your point. We have the business manager for Silverbird Cinemas. At least now, like you mentioned, we have 4 cinemas in Ghana. Silverbird, Accra, Mo, Wager. I don't know more about the other 2 anyway. But we have 2. And then we have Nana Yao Chumberima, who is the business manager for Silverbird. So I want to ask him, I want him to answer this question. Why does he think that cinemas are very, very important? So, in conversations about the movie industry, particularly currently the Ghanaian movie industry, many people are complaining that it's not doing too well as compared to the other African countries. So with somebody who is with Silverbird Cinema in Ghana, I think it's about cinema in Ghana that is very vibrant, maintaining the cinema culture. How does he think that it is very, very, very relevant? Maybe after his question, Kali J can take over and ask questions. So, Chum Berima, you can take up this question, please. Hello, Nana Yao. Yes. Hello, Nana Yao.
I don't know if it's the same Yao Sompao on it's a different, unless there's a different person. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay, if that's Yao Sompa.
All right, I'm here now. Good evening, everyone.
Okay, Nana Yao is here.
Okay. Please, Nana Yao, are you online?
Yes, I'm online. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Yes, please. Did you hear my question, please?
If you could repeat it, I got bits and pieces of it.
Yeah, okay. So during Alayo's submission, that no, Ghana has we all know that Ghana doesn't have enough cinemas. We have like 4, and I know of Silverbird Cinemas, Accra and Wager. And as the business manager for Silverbird Cinemas, I'm sure you've seen. You should have an idea of how people accept cinemas in Ghana. And I'm asking, do you think that how relevant cinemas discussion about reviving Ghana's movie industry? Please, do you understand me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. So you can take over.
Okay, thank you. The cinema business is a numbers game. And when we say Ghanaian movies are not doing well, that's not exactly the case. We've not even actually lost the cinema going culture. It's the fact that we have very limited screens in Ghana especially, and very few cinemas around. So imagine just having 2 big cinemas and 2 minor ones, because I know the numbers for every cinema in Ghana. Kumasi has less than 330 seats that can sit anyone who is willing to watch a cinema at any point in time. I can sit 2,400 persons in both locations, Accra Mall and West Coast Mall. So imagine a big movie release, local movie released, and just a little over 2,000 people can have access to this movie. That is next to nothing. So the conversation now starts with, how do we get enough screens? How do we get enough cinemas across the country, across the regions? So the 50 people in Western region, the 100 people in Greater Accra, the 1,000 people in Northern region, these are the numbers that come together to form the box office numbers. So if people are not getting access to cinema halls, access to screens, then it would look like our industry is not doing so well. So that is where the conversations should start. We need a lot more screens and a lot more cinemas for us to realize the potentials and actually generate enough income for these movies.
Okay, so with Silverbird Cinemas, how, when we are having premiering of movies, how is the patronage like? Can you look at the numbers and say that, oh, because of these numbers, people want to go to the cinemas, especially with the youth, the young people, they still have interest in cinemas?
Well, we have nights that we actually sold out. To be fair to moviegoers, there are nights we literally turn people away from Silverbird because we don't have any tickets left to sell to them. So we have not exactly lost that cinema going culture. The youth are coming, families are coming, elderly are coming. There are good turnouts for good titles that come to the cinemas. But then again, like I mentioned earlier, we need a lot more of these screens so people from other places can get access to it. That is what culminates the numbers, and this is what internationally, these are the numbers they report as box office numbers. So when you hear a movie like Marvel making $1.2 billion for the opening night, it's not just one cinema. This is a global thing, and they have a lot of screens recording these numbers. So till we get to that stage where everyone in every little community has somewhere to go and actually watch these movies, then we can come back and have this discussion as to whether we are losing the cinema culture or otherwise. Thank you.
So just as Jeremiah Yeboah said, he's saying that maybe when we get to the point that we have cinemas in our various communities, we can make that conclusion of whether Ghana, has lost the cinema culture or not, or whether the cinema is still vibrant in Ghana. If you just joined us, you are listening to the Snowbase Creator X Dialogue series, and we are having conversation on the topic Ghana Cinema Agenda, the need for community cinemas. And then we have Juliet Asante, who is the CEO of National Film Authority. She just joined us. When we started, she wasn't with us, but she's joined us. We have Alayo Machado, I hope I had the name right, who's the account manager for West Africa from One Entertainment. He's joined us from Nigeria. And then we have Naya Ochumberima, who just made his submission. Naya Ochumberima Yeboah, who is the business manager, Silverbird Cinemas. And then we have Ivan Kwashiga, who is the CEO of Farmhouse Productions. And then he's the creative mind, the popular series Things We Do for Love back in the day, and then now Jolo. These are panelists, and they're helping us, digest this topic of the Ghana Cinema Agenda, the need for community cinemas. I was waiting for Juliet to ask her this question. The topic. I want her to know why the need for community cinemas. I'm asking this question. I know that our various speakers have spoken, they've said they need, but I remember that when I sent this flyer to a friend, she was like, why are we talking about community cinemas in this day and time when I can just be on my phone and get access to a film? Why should I think of going to a cinema. So I want to ask Juliet. She has been in the system, just like Ivan, representing both the old and the new. Why the community cinemas in this time and age? Why is it relevant?
Thank you for the question. Can you hear me? Just to make sure that you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. You are online.
Wonderful. So why
Yes, please.
community cinemas? That's a very important point you make. In fact, when initially the rep from Silverbird was speaking, he mentioned that, Silverbird is just in Accra and we need cinemas in all communities. So when you say community cinema could be even in Accra, in a certain community, you have a cinema. So if you take Accra, for instance, if Silverbird is at West Hill Malls and Accra Mall, well, what about all the other communities? Where are the cinemas? Now, you say that, people can access their films on their phone. That is very true. Let's not move away from that. But I mean, look at the size of your phone, for one. Your phone is also, quote unquote, not a social gadget. And so it's just you watching your phone. There comes a point where you want to go out. I mean, you want to go out with your friends, you want to go out with your family, and all of that. And basically, if you sit around the table, each of you just watching your phone or watching your television, that cannot be, something that encourages social behavior. So that's one. But let's also not forget that the cinema business employs a lot of people. And so, if you have cinema thriving, you're talking about the filmmakers that supply the cinemas with their film. That is on one level. You are also talking about all the people that work within the ecosystem, and those people are not even filmmakers, apart from distributors, apart from cinema managers like we have with Silverbird and Film One here. Even within the cinema, you have so many, the person who sells the popcorn, the person who sells the ticket. So there's so many jobs. Beyond that, even within the film ecosystem, it's not just filmmakers. Again, you have lawyers. We have Yao also, on this, going to speak from the legal point of view. You have lawyers, you have doctors, you have drivers, electricians, carpenters, set designers, dressmakers, beauticians. I can go on and on. Graphic designers, all of those. So all of these people thrive when the cinema business thrives. And of course, we all are here and we hear big numbers, right? Like Avatar came out, we heard the numbers. Even when it played here, I mean, we can talk about the numbers. Barbie just showed at Silverbird. We saw, the kind of money that Barbie made globally. I think that it would be nice for us to one day say that our filmmakers or a certain film from Ghana has made it in cinemas and also globally, and instantly, overnight, you can become a millionaire. It is time that we started to dream big and potentially make our industry people rich as well, because then that kind of trickles down. I haven't even touched on community building. So when you say community cinemas, it's exactly that. It's about community building. It's about our, telling our narrative. It's about all those things. But let me just round up by saying that let's not forget as well that mobile phone is also premised on, you watching content on your mobile phone is premised on two things. One, you must have access to internet, and two, you must have a smartphone. We all know that not everyone in our country, not the entire population, be it Ghana or Nigeria, you can't say that every single person has a smartphone or has access to internet. And yet every single person in our communities deserve the privilege to also watch films and as well. So let's look at that broad picture. And so to your question, why do we need community cinemas? We need community cinemas for even much more than I have described, but even focusing on this, you can see why we need cinemas to thrive in Ghana and Africa as a whole.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Juliet. So, from what you've said, I'm going to ask, this question is open. Maybe you can take it, Uncle Ivan can take it, or Chumberima can take it. With your experience, all of you as players, whether in Ghana or in Nigeria, as players within, maybe should I say, the African movie industry. Let's bring it down to Ghana. With your experience, what do you think that Ghana need as an industry to revive this cinema culture? What do we need at this very moment? Like I mentioned earlier, somebody thinks that I can just have my phone. Why should I go to the cinema? What can we do differently, so that we can revive the cinema culture?
I can perhaps start, and then others can also add to that. What do
Yes,
we
please.
need to revive the cinema culture? First of all, we need good quality content, and so you would see that under the agenda of the National Film Authority, under the Ghana Cinema Agenda, one of the key pillars is the growth or the development, the enabling of local content. And what that entails, obviously, in simple language, quality of content. And I think that once there's quality of content, and films are made in different formats. Sometimes what is made for the big screen is also can be, tailored to the small screen. And so we have small screen experiences, but there's nothing like going into the cinema, opening, the sound in the cinema, the people, the fact that you dress up is an entire experience. Like we mentioned earlier, when Yah was talking, he even mentioned the fact that people do come to the cinema. So people, when you want to go out in Ghana, where are the places for you to go out apart from a drinking bar, apart from a restaurant, and even if you went to a restaurant with your family, by the time you are leaving, if it's your family of 4 or 5, perhaps you've spent over 1,000 or 1,500 Ghana cedi. Perhaps if you went to the cinema, you won't spend that much. And, the cinema experience, depending on the film, is suitable for all members of the family. And so I would say that, first of all, what we need is quality content. And so we need also funding to trickle into the space. And that's why, if you look at what we are doing, we're also looking at how we attract investments into the space. But as well, we are looking at, we continue to advocate local practitioners that up your game, make better films, let your costumes be nice, let your makeup be nice. Most importantly, let your story have gravitas, let it pull people to the cinema. I think when all of that is filled, then of course, you need the cinemas themselves as well to be in those communities. And that's the other pillar of the Ghana cinema agenda. So if you look at it, we are trying to tackle it down the value chain. How do we generate the kind of content that we need? And beyond quality, let me just mention also that people want to see themselves and people want to hear their own stories. I'm just from a meeting where we were talking about all the great stories in Ghana, from our historical stories to our icons, all of those things haven't been told. I think that when we begin to go into those spaces where people begin to see our stories, and not just our stories showing to us here, but then traveling the world, there's a lot of pride that comes out of that. And so, from there to the cinema build and all, that's also a lot of business that will potentially come out of that. So I think when all of these things begin to pick up, then, people will get up, dress up nicely. They've heard about a film. They will dress up with their family. They would go and watch the film. If the film is nice, they will tell their friends. So you see that marketing and word of mouth will begin to spread. Their friends will also come. Silverbird, I want to commend Silverbird. Silverbird, for instance, started this thing last year and this year, where they kind of, they did it with Barbie, they did it with Avatar, they did it with Woman King, where they kind of dressed up the cinema in a certain way. You go, you take pictures and all of these things encourage the cinema going culture. We continue to advocate with Silverbird too, that what you do for the foreign films in that sense, please do it for the local films as well, even if they are not up to the level. But Silverbird will also tell you, and Film One will also tell you that, well, we need to up our marketing budget. So all of those things are in conversations, but we'll never have those conversations if we don't have the cinema agenda at the table. And I think that's one of the things that this opportunity brings to us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Juliet. Maybe Ivan would want to say something, and then Khalid can take over if he has any questions. Ivan, would you want to contribute to
Well,
the question?
what I've been saying all along is that first, I support everything that Juliet has just said. That is exactly what we need. I also just want to add that we need, when we say an enabling environment, really, if we government, or I mean us as Ghanaians, we do not have that much money to put in into the film industry. We just need to create an environment for business people to be able to invest into this film industry. It could be policies that allow them to be able to work easier, so that they can reap the benefits of their investments more quickly. If it's difficult to build cinema houses, government to build cinema houses across the country, is there no opportunity for policymakers to give some kind of rebates, tax rebates, these things that would allow people to see the opportunity in the area to invest into it. I know that we have great filmmakers in this country. The main problem we have is the fact that when these films, you invest all your efforts and finances into the production of these films, it's more difficult to get your return on your investment. And as a result of that, most of the films that we are seeing are made by people. People tend to try to cut corners because they need to use the very little funds that they have to make the films, because they know that the returns will not be as huge as they would expect, so they would not invest as much into the film. I know filmmakers elsewhere would spend 1 year making one film, and that would be their work for the whole year. It's not like that in Ghana. You have to do so many other things just to be able to keep going. So it's important that we realize the role of film. Film, it's very, very important because it employs a lot more. Juliet mentioned it, that the value chain is very, very big. It caters for so many, almost every part of this our economy would benefit if film is thriving. And I believe that policymakers must recognize it quickly and start supporting it, not only in terms of the economic returns that we'll be making, but also the impact that we'll be making as a Ghana brand that we can be sharing across the world. And also the fact that our culture, she mentioned our historical films and things like that, how it will boost confidence in our people, our younger generations would know our stories and all that. All those things are very, very important for us, and it's only through films that we can achieve those things. So it's very important that our policymakers see the industry as a tool that can be used to build this nation. I think our first government, Kwame Nkrumah, saw it and decided to use it. That's why we had the Ghana film industry and all those investments that were made at the time. The only thing is that at that time, a lot more documentary films were shot than feature films. If you go into the archives, you see a lot of documentary films on activities of state organizations, but then very few feature films. Now it's time to tell our films through drama features, and it's important that our governments see the need for that, and create the environment for it. I think that if the funds are not there, we can still create a means for business people, investors to come into the space and invest into it, knowing that government is backing them with support in many other areas that they can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ivan. Thank you for your submission. If you just joined us, you are listening to the Graphic Showbiz X Twitter Dialogue Suite. You can share the link for your friends to join this conversation. I think I would hand over to Khalid. He has some questions.
I was going to, sorry, I just wanted to buttress on what Juliet and Favors. Hello?
Is that Alayo?
Yes, that's me.
Yeah, you can come in, please. You can.
Yeah, I just wanted to buttress on what Juliet and Ivan mentioned about in terms of marketing and in terms of content. And I do have to agree that in a lot of ways, that would play a huge role in developing. Basically, I think this year hasn't been all good for the Ghanaian cinema industry, because it figures Ghanaian cinema revenue has grown by 23% from exactly this time last year, and so also that has translated to the admission, so it's also growing by 11%. And tying that to what Juliet mentioned earlier about how the marketing for movies like Barbie and John Wick did, I think it also goes to the fact that the industry players have to put more effort into marketing. I don't understand that due to certain macroeconomic factors like inflation and cost, maybe cost of ticket prices, or with a country of over 30 million people, there's still a market to be reached. And I feel if we put more into marketing, and we put more into just looking at how you can make the experience worth it, because going to the cinema is an experience. Like Juliet mentioned earlier, it's basically social bonding, right? What the experience you get watching a movie on your phone is not the same you get going to the cinema. So you have to make coming to the cinema an experience. You have to make the 20 CDs, the 30 CDs that an individual is paying what's it. They have to know when they're leaving their home, they're going to enjoy the experience. So these are the things that we can also look at in growing the cinema culture, and also just shedding more light on the importance of community cinemas. Like for us in Nigeria right now, we have an initiative called Cinema Anywhere, where we're trying to get trying to build community cinemas in areas where where typically people wouldn't go to cinemas, or there are no cinemas in those areas. And I think that's something that can also be looked at in the Ghanaian industry.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, you are done. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so thanks for the submission. Khalid, maybe you can take over.
Hello, good evening, guys. So I think that it has been a very, very interesting conversation. Lot of back and forth, and lots of great submissions. But I have like a few questions on my side here I would like to ask, and like it goes to everybody on like the speakers here. So I wanted to ask, is it possible that the cinema industry and then the movie industry in Ghana will collaborate with other industries to when it comes to the whole filmmaking process, from maybe from acting, from writing the scripts to shooting to marketing, if they can collaborate with other industries to make it work. For instance, let's say there's there's going to be a movie, and you have these TikTok influencers, you have Twitter influencers, just even coming on making cameo appearances. I feel it will help when it comes to marketing. So I really want to get your opinions on that. The movie and cinema industry collaborate with other industries.
Okay, so I'll take this, Kalije. Thanks for the question. Um, so the filmmaking business and cinema business has a chain of processes that it goes through. But unfortunately, Ghana, we don't have that chain properly situated, if I may say. So elsewhere in the world, no producer or film director walks to the cinema and even request their movies to be shown or request a date for a movie to be shown in Ghana. It's not done anywhere except Ghana. You need to go through a distributor who would also market that movie for you, take up the responsibility of marketing, take up the responsibility of distributing this title to various cinemas, centers that they are going to screen these movies. So, as a cinema manager, it is not my business to now engage a producer, a director as to how they should make their movie. That's the business of the distributor. And I must commend Film One because even on international scenes, they are sponsoring international titles. They are investing in international movies. They're investing in the local titles as well. Film One is a co-producer, sometimes even the producer of the titles themselves before these movies come out. But like I said earlier, that is the business of a distributor. A cinema is an exhibitor. Exhibitor is where the last resort or the last business ends. We screen these titles so people can have access to the titles. We do not advise a producer. We don't advise a director as to how to make their movies. Unfortunately, because of the absence of distribution in Ghana, we are compelled to now step in and work as if we are distributors. We aren't. So when these structures are properly laid and distribution is anchored in Ghana, then we can start this conversation of what type of movie do you think I should make? What type of movie is marketable to the communities? What type of movie would make my return on investment even better? So Kalije, to answer your question, the cinema shouldn't engage the producer or the filmmaker as to how or where or what kind of movie to put on the screen.
Okay, if I may have a view at this question, I think I find it. I don't know if you can hear me and if I'm still online.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, it's interesting you ask collaborators and how filmmakers can think beyond their primary activity in making cinema work. It's that, let me take this. Let me tell a story going a bit far back. Now, cinema in Ghana and Africa at large is not a new subject, or it's not a new phenomenon. Many people say that, and this is actually UNESCO's official report, that when the Lumiere brothers, as it were, invented cinema, it didn't take Africa 1 year to have an interaction with film, right? So this is going as far back as the 1896. Now, the question many people ask is that if you have this inciting incident, if you've had a phenomenon you've been so used to since 1896, how come you're now having a conversation about how to start a culture? I mean, if somebody has done something from 1896, the least of the thing you should be the least of the conversations you should be having now is a conversation around how to bring back or how to have that culture. But you begin to understand that in that journey, we've approached it as a passion rather than a business. And unfortunately, even on this call, we've approached the conversation with some focus on the filmmakers without sometimes having a view as to the fact that it is a business. If you understand how, from our first encounters with cinema from the 1896, to how it evolved as a missionary tool sometime around the 1910s, where missionaries used it to evangelize and so don't many people ask why are we still very religious with our movies, and I tell people, well, go as far back as the beginning of how we interfaced with film was very religious. It was very Judeo-Christian oriented. But beyond that, what you realized is that, and I think Ivan mentioned this, most of our early films that were made were actually colonial project. And so the first record is around 1930, where we're told that there was a film about cocoa production in Gold Coast, and around 33 with coastal forts and fishermen, made by the colonial government. Now, what you begin to realize is that people actively were conscious about the business. And I heard the during the introduction you mentioned all the popular ones. You mentioned Palladium. You mentioned which one, Orion, and all of that. But many of us mentioned that and asked, yes, some were state owned, but there was a private enterprise around it. There was a man called Alfred Kabu Okanse who actually organized the business and did film exhibition and the whole enterprise of film as a business, because it was a private enterprise. Now, the moment we begin to understand that, yes, we're not new to films and we're not new to film evolution, and maybe our film evolution may have come through a faith religious dimension, but the growth of it and all the examples we're pointing to are examples of private enterprise. Yes, Kwame Nkrumah's SFIC was absolutely transformational. But what you begin to realize is that maybe apart from Kwame Nkrumah, in between and the product of that era, which is the names Ivan mentioned, the Kawansas and all the legends we have, those were product of those ages. They were product of vestiges of structure that had been created by private enterprise and by government actors and by an active collaboration. What do you find now? You find people who basically want to think about film without the enterprise. You find people who want to have a conversation about film in no other sense but for the passion of it without structure. I mean, structure is good, but it's not only good, it's the only thing that sustains the business. So the moment you begin to think about it like that, I guess I would end the submission with a simple question. When we're talking about the cinema, the African cinema, what exactly are we referring to? Are we referring to the idea of just a lot of films? Are we referring to just going to the theaters? Is it a film movement that is used as a national transformation and a means where it is a national and cultural asset? Or is just building multinationals and conglomerates around film industries? I would prefer the latter. I don't know. All the other spokes are actually very important. But if you begin to think of it as a film industry in which there are conglomerates around it, then maybe a lawyer on this call won't be struggling to find attention to speak, right? Because you then understand that film is not just because a filmmaker makes it, it's because there's a structural way of thinking about film in a way that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, I think you're making perfect sense.
And if I can add to what Yao just said, I mean, film itself is a collaborative enterprise, so to speak. So if you look at the creative space, you see that many other creatives can create on their own. I can sit in my room and do my makeup. I can, a dressmaker can do their dress. A pot maker can make their pot. Music can make their music, almost in a solo enterprise. But if you come to film, I'm yet to see anyone who says, I made my film myself. I wrote it, I produced it, I directed it, I acted it, I did the makeup. Well, we do try to do some of those things. I know there are some films that you see one person, the person did everything, but that's not the ideal situation, right? Or of course a content producer now as well can have a go at it, but even then there's always, you may just call somebody to say hold my phone for me or do my makeup for me, or at least the dress you are wearing is not yours. So film by its very nature is a collaborative medium, and I think so the concept is already in our minds about what collaboration is. Perhaps we need to stretch it a little further. And when I was also talking initially, when I mentioned that there are lawyers, there are doctors, there are, drivers, electricians, cooks, restaurant owners, hotel owners. I can go on and on and on. Architects, set designers, you can go on and on. Media, all of these are perhaps different sectors. You can maybe put them in different sectors, but they are part of the filmmaking process. And so perhaps we need to be a little more deliberate about the understanding of what this means. So let me give an example. Let's take marketing. You all mentioned marketing. Let's take, say, product placement or trying to raise money. If we got more into the space where we are thinking, okay, I'm going to make my film, perhaps, I can go to a product or a corporate and say that, let me put your product in my film. Let me use my film to market your product, and in exchange, obviously, you give me some money. That in itself immediately becomes a collaborative effort. Of course, the marketing person needs to understand, or the corporate needs to understand the kind of value that the film will bring to their product, and the filmmaker also needs to be able to tell that language, or be able to speak to the corporate in a way that the corporate will understand the value. Same, if you're also going to make a film, you need an investor. Yeah, if you are going to talk to an investor, the investor will ask you about a return on investment. And so you see that you are the filmmaker, but you need to be able to collaborate with the money person to be able to get that money. If you think wide, you might, if you, for instance, before you make your film, you think broadly about how am I going to market my film. Initially, we're talking about marketing. Then you would then realize that, okay, if I'm going to market my film, like you said, Kali, maybe I can bring a TikToker on, or I can bring somebody else on, even if just a cameo role, so that I'm able to reach far. Maybe I myself, even if I take myself, right, I'm what, in my, in the on the fourth floor or the fifth floor, and then I want my film to be able to speak to someone on the second floor. If you understand what I mean in ages. Somebody is in their 20s, maybe I'm in my 50s, and I need to be able to reach young people. I should understand that, look, even if I'm as hip as possible, I'm not in my 20s. So it makes sense for me to then go and bring somebody in that environment, or who understands. I think someone like Ivan has demonstrated how that can be done, from YOLO to Things We Do for Love. It's all about young people. We all saw how far that went because of the kind of people he brought into those projects. And so collaboration is about collaboration. Even as filmmakers, we don't collaborate enough. Everybody perhaps wants to do their own film. So I have 5,000, I want to make a 5,000 film. I have 10,000, I want to make a 10,000 film. But that film is not going to go far. Perhaps if 5 of us or 10 of us who each have 10,000, if we came together and said, let's make 100,000 film, or let's make a film valued at 50,000, that film will be able to travel far. We kind of have the mentality that we'll rather have 100% of 0 than 1% of 100. And so we need to be able to understand what that means to have 1% of 100, rather than to have 100% of 0. And so the collaboration spirit itself, there's unnecessary competition. We are all very small, and yet we are in this space where we are competing unnecessarily, where maybe someone somewhere else will be like, even if I don't like you, let's come together and make money together. So I think the question you ask is extremely important. This is not just about the film industry. I think it even extends to all creatives. Talk about filmmakers and musicians. We need to hear more of our music, our local music in our films. Are there collaborations happening in those spaces? It's not just about the creative space, it's about the fabric of the Ghanaian or the fabric of the African, whereby maybe we've been struggling for so long to do things on our own. And we've also been, given the kind of thinking that there's only room for one. Whether we can get into the mind space of the sky is big enough and so many birds can fly in the sky, and you've never had two birds collide, and each bird can spread their wings as far as they can. So that spirit of collaboration, I think, is something that we need to hammer on more, and I'm very excited that you bring that point up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Okay, so to my next question, right? I want to ask, looking at the space and talking about collaborations and all, can we blame the lack of collaborations in the space to lack of professionals? So and how can we as a group or as an industry grow the number of professionals in the space? So I think you look at the entertainment space, and even the number of entertainment lawyers in Ghana are so limited, and even there are people that don't even know there's a job called entertainment lawyers and all. So is there lack of professionals, and how can we grow the number of professionals in that space?
Again, maybe I would start by having a view at this question. I think that like many markets grow with demand. Yes, sometimes supply creates the demand, but in many times it is the demand that pushes the supply. The only well, one of the reasons why I am very interested in film, intellectual property, and things around entertainment, aside of all the other things I do, is because I am a creative myself, right? If you take that out, every other thing as to the commercial sense for why a lawyer would decide to specialize in this field probably will not make sense, right? I remember people used to tell me, I mean, if you're going to try and do this your film thing, you'll be very hungry, right? And maybe they were right because of their reading of our environment at the time. And so what I'm saying is that, yes, you're correct that professionals may not be a lot, and that may be some of the reasons for the lack of collaboration. But I also think that it is also because we haven't sustained in a structural way, created demand in a way that sustains supply, in a way that people or those professionals, it will make sense for them to devote it as purpose. I mean, I always tell people like Miss Julia that for them it's a call of God, because clearly you're pioneering things that even your own people that you're fighting for are fighting you. People who that behind closed doors, you do everything to protect them and to champion and be their champion and campaign for them and do everything behind the doors that won't hear that. And yet you come out and you're the chief villain, right? And so unless of course you're called like she is, it probably won't make sense. I mean, with all the other options, why will somebody focus here when there is no demand? Beyond that, I also think that, so yes, the first one, I agree with you. Maybe there's not much professionals, but I think that is so because there is not much demand for those professionals. Beyond that, I think that there's a certain jealousy around, oh, that is my work. For every creative, that is almost satisfying, right? And so there is some protectionism around them that you would rather say that I made that bomb film than I was part of the people that made that great film, because your name may roll as part of 1,000 other people, right? So I think that even if you take with the demand levels, I still think we can do amazing work if we're learning to collaborate enough, right? From the story development, from writing, if we're creating writers' room enough, if we're creating storytellers who would challenge narratives enough, if we're creating people, actors, if we're creating a lot of collaboration, yes, the demand may not be there now, but with the great work that we'll produce out of the collaboration, it goes without saying that we'll produce great work. So my second point is maybe not so much that there is not much professionals as much as there is some innate jealousy of creatives in a way that we would rather not be second at anything. I hope we are not the morning star that didn't want to be second to God and was cast to hell, right? And so and it's funny that they say he was a creative, So I hope that it's not that jealousy. We can climb beyond that to humility in a way that we accept the calling. And I think Miss Juliet put it rightly. Maybe 1% of 100, and it's mathematically makes sense. But maybe bring our mind and our cultural orientation to a place that it makes more sense to have 1 of 100 than have 100 of 0.
Thank you very, very much. Um, Nanaya, do you have anything to say? Ivan, do you have anything to say about this?
Well, this is Ivan. I think that Yao has actually nailed it, even in his first submission, where he is actually was submitting that we should look at film as. We should look at it as a project and something that there should be concerted effort from all the players, from government right down to individuals within the value chain, who would try to play their part. Um, we've been discussing this on what are filmmakers doing, how come we have not got a lot of films, and I'm thinking that and just as Yao said, how is film positioned to serve us as a country, as a country that needs variables of exports, goods and products to export, or brands to export. And if film is one of them, what are we doing in creating the environment for it to work? If we see it that way, then there would be a structured policy that will be written out, where every player within the industry would know what their role will be and will be able to play their role into perfection. They would know that if they enter into this industry, this and this is the support that is available that would guarantee this thing. Yao talked about demand, the fact that it's if the industry to grow, it's all about demand and supply. I think that the demand for content from our film industry is really high. There are lots and lots of Ghanaians want to watch our films. The structures are not in place for them to be able to see these films, because we don't have as many film exhibition centers. And we in the film industry, recently I was telling somebody that we were just like the group of farmers who go out there to farm, sweat in the sun to produce tomatoes, and then end up putting it by the roadside and hoping that buyers would come around to buy. So if you find yourself in a situation like that, it becomes very, very difficult to invest a lot more into it. If that farmer knew that as soon as their produce is they harvest, they are able to get can it. They are able to it can be sold across the country, or it can be sold across West Africa. I believe that farmer would find money to put into their farm and invest into machines and things to produce better quality produce for the market. So we need an environment that guarantees supply, that guarantees return on investment. And I think this discussion about cinema houses across communities in Ghana is a very, very important discussion, because we need these outlets for our works to guarantee that when we produce content, our contents can be seen across Ghana, if not across West Africa. That is the main reason why at some point I chose to come out with Farmhouse Movies app, because I thought that if the brick and mortar is not there, can we leapfrog that problem via our digital, the opportunities that the digital age is giving us now. So yes, there are lots and lots of problems within the film industry, but I think that we have now the National Film Authority, which is working and has a structured agenda that they are pursuing, and it's important that we, all of us filmmakers, would have to come together and support and make sure that if there are areas that they are not covering, we alert them and get them to include those areas within their work. That is the only way that we can have an industry, and also through them we can get to the ears of policymakers, who would then probably put in place the right policies to help us to gain more investments into the industry, so as to enable us to work and deliver what we know we can do.
If I may just also, Kali, if I may just add to what Ivan just
Sure.
said and what he also said, I want to move this a little bit into the arena of, when you're talking about community cinemas and our communities and all, I want to move it into the arena of, say, everyone else, let's say, even on this call or listening to this program, and extend it further into we as young people, we as Ghanaians, and we as Africans. In fact, Kali, you yourself and myself, we've had this conversation before. What is our role? And why does this matter? Why should we do this? I think when we talk about filmmakers, sometimes, or film as a medium, sometimes we elevate it to the point of, and rightly so, it is a business, all of those. But you can look at the soft angles of it, the preservation of culture, the telling of our stories, our representation, branding, a tool for empowerment, all of those things. I mean, the entire American dream was sold through film. Right now, I mean, if you talk about superpowers, let's say if you even talk about America as a superpower, America is not a superpower because of their guns. They are a superpower because perhaps out of every 10 music you listen to, you are listening to maybe 5 of them are American songs. Out of every, 5 films you watch, perhaps 3 or 4 of them are from America. If it's about clothes you are wearing, perhaps everybody on this call today, if you look at what you are wearing, it was probably made by an American brand. And so the soft power that America has, I mean, I always refer, when I refer to it, then I kind of, show my age, but I still refer to it. When we used to watch the Chuck Norris and the Rambos and things, you will never see an American, superhero killed. At the end, when he's about being killed, whether Rambo or whatever, he will put out that sweaty American flag, wipe his face, and suddenly energy from where, and he will, so, the American leaves the cinema room or leaves the film thinking, I'm an American and I can achieve anything and I'm strong. If you talk about our preservation of our culture. Even let's bring it, I'm a woman, so I will bring this down to a woman. If a young girl, or when I was young watching television or films, I would never see any person that looks like me, either in color or hair or culture. And so our young people, or this young girl, grows up thinking that she's not good enough, or she's not beautiful enough, or she's not a princess, to the point that even when in our local parlance, if you are a woman now who you fair, and then a man wants to talk to you, he will refer to you as me brony. I mean, what is that? And so even the male has also been brainwashed to think that beauty is fairness. And so then are we surprised where we have maybe bleaching problems, or we have, Africans are fueling the largest hair, industry in the world, and we are not even making any money from it. Those hairs are not even made here. So, this is about society. Where are we going? What do we represent? How do we bring, one can say, call our power back? We are in a space where in less than 7 years, the global youth population, about over 40% to 70% of the global youth population will be from this continent, will be from Africa. The rest of the world is aging. So Africa now becomes the youngest and is the youngest continent. Are we going to have a group of young people who are insecure, in a rush to leave their communities, don't respect their cultures? They think that everything that is foreign is better. When other cultures are using their programming to sell their recently I was watching something on Netflix, and they've done this animation about Buddha and all the gods, Zeus and all the gods, and soon we are not respecting our traditional or our African gods, but we will buy all the foreign. We have bought them already. We'll buy all the foreign gods, and it's okay if you mention a traditional god, you are pagan. But it's okay for you to worship or to mention a foreign god, gods, and it's okay. So this kind of brainwashing, if we want our communities to change, if we want our future to change, and this problem extends beyond film. Talk about game, and game developers are filmmakers, so I always bring them into the conversation. Ghana is now the second largest film market on the continent, even higher than Nigeria, next to be right behind South Africa, which has over 40% of their population being gamers. Again, these games, which characters do you see in these games? What are they portraying? So you are a grown-up, you've left, you are busy, so you've left your child to watch TV, and even that cartoon they are watching, you don't know what is in there. And soon, one day, we'll get up like we are already doing and say, what happened? Where did we go wrong? It happened in your programming where you were not looking. All the things that we are fighting for or against in our communities, do we know that they are already embedded in the animation that our children are watching? And so we are here fighting battles that very soon we will lose those battles because we didn't pay attention to the things that matter. So when we talk about the sector and we talk about the contribution of film, it's not just about business, even though I'm the first person to say this is business, but it's important that all of society gets involved. It's important, most especially, that young people get involved. And that's why, Kali, yourself, I was so excited when we had this conversation about how can we, bring young people into the conversation more. How can we own our power? How can we project into the future? How can we go down to the foundation of things and begin to change things at that level? And I think that's one of the things that film as a vehicle presents to us very nicely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Kalije, please, are you done with your questions?
Yeah, I think I'm done here.
Okay, so maybe we can round up if there are no any questions. Maybe we can open the floor for some questions if some of the listeners want to ask any question, and then we have some online. We have Noel. Noel, are you still online? Hello, Noel. Are you still online? Okay, so let me just ask this question, and then we can use it to round up. So if you to this one, maybe I should give it to Alayu. If you had the money to support, like to improve, like you're saying, the cinema culture in Africa? Let's not limit it to Ghana. What is the first thing that you would want to spend on the, we're having a conversation on the Ghana cinema agenda, and you have money, like what would be the first thing that this question can go to Alayo, and then when he's done, we can just round up and then we can call it a day. So maybe Alayo, you can do it for us. You can take this question up, please.
Hello. Yeah. Sorry, you were asking if can you come again with the question? If there's any way I want to invest in Africa to improve the cinema culture in Africa, well, is it where would I spend the money, or what would I do with the money?
Yes, please. Yes, please. That's what I said, please.
I First of all, I'd actually, like I think someone said it is. I sorry that I think it's I'm sorry about the name. I think it's Yahweh that spoke about there's a demand, the supply is an effect of demand, right? I would want to say that I think there is a demand, which is why one reason why again I would have to agree with Ivan. If you look at if you look at the trajectory of how the cinema business in Africa has been, and like we know, the largest cinema industry in Africa is South Africa, followed by it's South Africa, right? And there's a demand, but then again, we have to look at what is the content for demand. So yeah, so where would I spend the money? I think it will be in content. I think content plays a big role in drawing people to the cinema. I think that is one of the things we as Africans need to look at. And like Mrs. Juliet, like Madam Juliet said, a lot of things can be communicated through film, and I don't think we have enough relatable content. I think if you have a lot of relatable content, it makes a lot of discussions easier to have. It's easier to do marketing because then I can relate it to what I see on the TV. Madam Julia was speaking about how, when growing up, she wouldn't see herself in the TV. And I think that's something we as Africans need to prioritize. It's our content, telling our own stories, not necessarily having to wait for Hollywood to tell our stories for us. I think if you tell our own stories, you get people to the cinemas. Films, even Hollywood blockbusters like Wakanda Forever leverage heavily on African culture, and we could see how that's erupted in our cinema space. So, so I don't I think it's a no-brainer. It's basically investing in our own content, both financially and then human capital. It's what will really it's what is going to separate us from it's what's going to take us to the next level because it's one thing we can export. It's our content. It's our stories that, and we have a lot of original stories. Madam Julia was mentioning how we are accustomed to foreign gods like Zeus and all. And yeah, we have all those here. We have stories that we can mold and form and remake to make it entertaining for us. And I think these are the stories we need to tell, and these are the stories we have to actually tell. To be able to reach a wider audience, to be able to reach an audience that connects with our roots, with our culture. I think that those are the things. If you look at most of the Nollywood blockbusters that we've had, there are stories that have connected deeply with the audience, and that is one thing. So that's one area that I would really invest in, and I would really advise every other person to look at, and that makes it easy. It also makes it easy. Yep. Sorry. Okay. Like it also makes it very easy to when you have that kind of content, it's easy to get to areas where typically a lot of the cinemas are based in urban areas, so it's easy to get to rural areas where those community cinemas will be able to reach, and it is that kind of content that will be able to bring those kind of people out to see what you have on your big screen.
No, okay. Thank you, Alayu, for the submission. I think it would just be fair on Tuesday, November 14th to Thursday, November 16th. I think Ghana is going to have the first Africa Cinema Summit, and it's only fair that maybe we give Juliet some few minutes to talk about it. then we can wrap up and call it a day. So, Juliet, please, maybe you can give us a brief about the upcoming program and its relevance to our conversation today.
Right. Thank you very much. And I also see that there are quite a number of people who have, I think, asked to be speakers. So I would try and keep mine short so that they can also speak. Let me take the opportunity to say thank you to Silverbird on this call and Film One as well on this call that have Film House Group as well on this call that have partnered with the National Film Authority to do the Africa Cinema Summit. So the Africa Cinema Summit is under the Ghana Cinema Agenda, and that is focused on the exhibition space. So obviously, when you say cinema, cinema can represent the entire ecosystem, but as well, cinema is its own marketplace. When the infrastructure of the building. And so when Nanaya was talking, he mentioned that the cinema is an exhibitor, and exhibition spaces or the cinema exhibition space, because there can be several exhibition spaces, is the largest marketplace. The marketplace for cinema includes festivals. When I say marketplace for cinema, let me rephrase. The marketplace for film includes festivals, cinemas, video on demand, airlines, pay TV, free to air TV, all of those places. And cinema perhaps is the one single largest market. And so as a filmmaker, you know, if you make your film and you don't have access to a cinema, it's very likely you will not make money. And you know, as well, when Nanaya was speaking, he also mentioned the lack of distributors. And so you see that value chain businesses or the business of it is not enabled. And so if I make my film, who do I give it to distribute? When I made my last film in 2015, I had to even do my own legal documents. I had to, because I couldn't pay an entertainment lawyer from Hollywood, I had to kind of buy a legal book. Apparently there's a legal book for filmmakers, pocket law for filmmakers. So anyone who is a filmmaker on here, you know, you can go buy it and read. And I read about how to put together your contract, and I did mine. But it's not the ideal situation. If I make my film, I should be able to give it to a distributor. I should first of all have an investor. I should be able to give it to a distributor or an agent. I should have a marketing budget, all of those things. And ideally, my film will go to a festival, and from a festival, it will end up at the cinema and then down the value chain. Now we are on a continent where, you know, we don't have any of these things. In fact, the entire continent of Africa has less than 1,700 screens. Let me just put that in perspective. France has, as a country, has 6,000. Now, if you're talking about China as a, as a place, has over 70,000. India, that has similar numbers as ours and similar profile as ours, has over 20,000. Let me not even mention America, and so to speak. And so if you have an entire continent having less than 1,700 screens, really, where do you start from? You know, because the fact that you have Medina Market, Kaneshi Market, and wherever, if you don't have access, if you are a farmer or a seller, and Makola is your biggest market, and you don't have access to Makola, you know, you can do whatever you want to do. You will not be equal to that person who has access to Makola as well as Kaneshi as well as Medina. And so even as we talk about content development and all of that, it's very important that we tackle the marketplace. And cinema exhibition or infrastructure, the filmmaker needs to understand it. Quality content needs to grow. The film, you know, local content needs to be able to supply local cinemas, but there needs to be presence of local cinemas. And so I think it's with excitement, and we can all as Ghanaians be excited about this, that we went out there to the cinema world. In fact, in 2021, when I found myself at one of such meetings, I was the only African there at that point. And so as they were talking about how do we come back from, COVID, how do we get people back into the cinema, we got up and said, where would you rather be than where your biggest opportunity is? And we I myself as a person, and certainly my team, we always look at the cup as half full and not half empty. And so where there's a gap, there is also opportunity. And for the first time, I'm happy to say that not only are we doing this together with Film One Group, that is the largest player in West Africa, and with Silverbird as well, which is I don't want to say only cinema, but you know what I mean, in Ghana. And then, we have the biggest player from South Africa's Tekenokor coming. We have Century Cinemax, the biggest player in East Africa, coming. We have the players from French-speaking African countries coming, Canal, Olympia, Pathé, all of those. We have studios coming, Warner Brothers, Paramount. So all we have distributors that distribute to all of these lines. We have the Association of Nigeria Cinemas, part of the collaboration. And this is the first time that cinema stakeholders, and when I say cinema stakeholders, I'm even bringing in governments, because of course we are a government body. We shouldn't be the one doing this ideally, but somebody needs to do it, and we step forward and we are doing it. But there's also gaps around policy and regulation. And so governments have to be present, or governments are going to be present. The Uganda head of communication ministry and sector is coming. Rwanda is coming. Zimbabwe is coming. Many countries are coming. So we have academicians, filmmakers, agents, distributors, studios, cinema exhibitors. Everyone is coming. And this is the first time that this is happening. And so the Africa Cinema Summit is where industry stakeholders meet on the African continent to deliberate about issues affecting the film industry and its growth. And it's pillared on two pillars. One is improving content output from our continent, and as well improving exhibition space around the continent. It's going to be an annual event. And I think that everyone should, if I may say so, congratulate themselves, as well as congratulate the National Film Authority for doing this. I'm very proud of my team. It's been a very long and arduous road, and I want to say thank you to all our partners, including you at Graphic Showbiz, for supporting the cinema agenda. The cinema agenda means that as we build exhibition halls as well, we need to attract people back into the cinemas. So it involves all of those. And of course, if you're a Ghanaian filmmaker, when we say access to the market, after you show your film in Ghana, you should go international. So after you show your film in Ghana, even regionally, go and show it in Nigeria as well. Film One is very open to receiving Ghanaian films. Go and show it in South Africa to Tekenokor. Go and show it in East Africa. Take it to the world. And then you know that you can begin to get the kind of money that you need to invest in your next project. But it shouldn't be the filmmaker that does this. We need to develop the ecosystem, enough where there are distributors, agents, and all of those. So as well, there's so many businesses within the ecosystem that we do not have. And perhaps one of the things that will happen during the 14th and the 16th is a lot of networking, a lot of collaborations, a lot of idea sharing, a lot of commitments, and for us it's results oriented. So next year we want to come back to the table and want to ask the question, when we started this was where we are. Where are we now? How do we make sure we move this forward? So that's what the Africa Cinema Summit is about. Anyone who wants to know more can also go to the website africacinemasummit.com and register to attend. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think that
Yeah, and just to add to, sorry to cut you, also add to what Madam Juliet.
Okay.
Yeah, just to add to what Madam Juliet said, yes, Film One Entertainment is a film and content distribution company, and we are open to distributing all content from all over Africa, basically, and that's
Not
obviously
constantly.
inclusive of Ghana, if you have Ghanaian content that you would like to distribute, even within Ghana, we do have the channel and the resources to do that. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for your submission. But this will be a take-home question to to Juliet. This is from one of our listeners. He sent something. He said that Nana Yasanti makes very important points with how Hollywood has made America a superpower. My question is, what's her outfit, the National Film Authority, doing to weave such a narrative for Ghana, bearing in mind that we aren't seeing so much of the film or creative industry in the country? I think that in her submission, she made some points. So I don't know if the person was listening, but she made some points about, deliberately making efforts to ensure that we tell the African story and appreciate our story as well. So this is just a take-home question to Juliet. And on this note, I think that we've had a very important conversation. It's been a healthy conversation. It's opened our eyes to many things, and I want to use this opportunity on behalf of the management of Graphic Communications Group Limited, the editors and the digital team, to thank our panelists. Thank you so much to Juliet, the CEO of National Film Authority, to Alayo, your other name, it's difficult to, I don't want to get it wrong, so I don't want to mention it, who is the account manager for Form 1
It's
Entertainment.
Machado.
Machado, thank you. Machado, who joined us all the way from Nigeria. He's a very busy man, but he had time for us. And then we have Chumbe Mayoba, who is a business manager for Silverbird Students. And we have Uncle Ivan Kwashiga, who is the CEO of Farmhouse Productions. And I know that if you're a Ghanaian, if you are my age, and if you are in your 20s, you should know him because he's the creative director for Things We Do for Love and for YOLO. And I think tomorrow we are premiering season 7. He's premiering season 7 of YOLO on at Silverbird Cinemas. So as we are talking about the cinema culture and reviving it, this is part of it. He's not just talking. He's taking action as well. And thank you so much to our listeners. You can continue to join the conversation on our various social media platforms. Thank you so much until we meet you again. Oh, I forgot, to my co-host Kali J, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us. It was on a short notice, but you agreed, and you've been a very important co-host this evening. Thank you so much as well. Kali J.
Okay, thank you very, very much for allowing me to be your co-host.
Sure. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. To our panelists, to our listeners who make time to join us, to thank you so much for making this another successful edition. Until we come.
I think you forgot Yao. Yao Sompa.
Oh, sorry, my lawyer. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Mr. Yao Sompa, who is part of the legal team at National Film Authority. Please, my sincere apologies. Thank you so much for giving us the legal aspects to this conversation as well. Your time, your knowledge is well appreciated. Thank you so much. And to everyone who made this a success, we are grateful. Sim Graphic is grateful. Thank you. Until we come your way next time, thank you. Let's keep on with the conversation until November, until the Africa Cinema Summit. Thank you. God bless us all. Have a good evening.